proud day for this country. How could it be a proud day when a man who was not elected by the people becomes president of the United States? How does that happen?
Michael Moore just dropped a bombshell on Trump live on TV. The former president is spiraling faster than a cuff emoji trapped in a Cayman Islands sauna. Trump's reaction? A full-scale Jurassic Park-level meltdown. Moore laid bare Trump's only-I-can-fix-it act, his string of golf course bankruptcies, and his laughable obsession with elections, like a toddler finally realizing that his scary cuff poster isn't intimidating anyone. "Your offshore accounts are your only success story," Moore quipped, while Trump's MAGA crew awkwardly defended his "I'm not a crook" expression. Late-night shows had a field day. Why's Trump throwing a fit? Moore's closing remarks dissected Trump's tantrum with surgical precision. The internet exploded. Moore's roast: "Your presidency is a scam." Trump's reply: "I'm the victim." What a tragedy. His ego has now reached Groundhog Day-level chaos. He's back to rage posting that Moore's a Marxist, while yet another of his golf resorts files for bankruptcy. Moore's hard-hitting, jackass-scented exposé landed harder than a cuff emoji crashing on marble. They honestly think everyday Americans want to hear that we dislike immigrants. But we are immigrants. We're the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of immigrants. Unless you're African American or among the first peoples here. We're all shaped by immigration and proud of the generations that brought us to this country. Speaking about immigrants in such vile and hateful ways is shameful. Michael Moore just lived out the dream of countless Americans on live TV. He tore into Donald Trump without mercy. And honestly, by now, Trump getting slammed on television is almost a national sport. But this was next level. It was intense, inescapable, and frankly, like watching a demolition crew knock down a building already collapsing under its own weight, claiming it's the greatest demolition in history. It'll feel good for a day, maybe a week, possibly a month. Then, like the Brits who wanted to send a message by voting to leave Europe, only to realize that leaving meant actually leaving, they'll regret it. In fact, Michael Moore has been predicting these things for years. He's like a political Nostradamus, except he wears a baseball cap and crusades against corruption. The moment he decided to go after Trump again, you knew it was going to be good. And, spoiler, it was. Honestly, they seem completely out of touch with where most Americans stand. Most of us don't want division or violence. We're fine disagreeing, but that's where it should stop. If you're enjoying this, make sure to subscribe now. Trump has labeled himself a stable genius and a business mogul, among other things. And let's not forget, a man whose hair often looks like it's trying to make a run for it. But one thing he's not is someone who takes criticism well. He reacts like a child being told no. So when Moore hit him with logic, facts, and, worst of all, comedy, you could almost hear the Twitter rage loading. Moore's takedown played out like a late-night infomercial listing Trump's greatest failures. And there were plenty. It was an all-you-can-eat buffet of bad decisions, from his legal messes to the slow collapse of his so-called billionaire empire. Trump might love buffets, but not the kind served with subpoenas. And he definitely wasn't ready for this one. Because nothing screams business genius like failed casinos, a fake university, and a steak brand that couldn't survive in America. Let's start with the most obvious train wreck, Trump's business empire. Financially, it's the equivalent of a reality show. Imagine failing to sell freedom red meat in the land that worships it. That's like opening a pizza place in New York and shutting down because nobody showed up. That's the Donald Trump who preaches capitalism and free enterprise, ideals that, ironically, have been part of what's run things into the ground. This idea that you can do whatever you please without considering who might be affected, that's the mindset he operates on, and I don't really see that shifting. But he's fully aware of being on television, right? He's a showman. He knows the right things to say, how to make it all look appealing. Do I think he's full of it? Well, let's just say I avoid using that kind of language, but his next move is definitely political. It's like watching a prolonged, slow-motion car crash that inexplicably keeps getting worse. You'd expect someone to step back after losing an election, getting impeached twice, and being at the center of one of the most chaotic and disgraceful episodes in recent U.S. history at the Capitol. But that would require a level of introspection Donald J. Trump doesn't seem to possess. He doesn't pick up on cues. If anything, he imagines the country is quietly begging for his comeback, even as it clearly signals it's had enough. Expecting him to take a hint is like expecting his most loyal fans to sit through an unbiased, fact-based history course. It's just not going to happen. After all, why face facts when you can spin the narrative in real time? He understands how to manipulate a population that has been intellectually dulled, where the education system is broken and the media is shallow and uninformative. It's easy to sway voters under those conditions. He draws massive crowds. He promotes a modern form of fascism, blending government and corporate power to benefit a select few while scapegoating others. Typically, when faced with scandal, lawsuits, and public backlash, politicians bow out, write a flattering memoir, and rake in money through speeches. But Trump is not typical. Instead of making an elegant exit, he digs in, claiming he's the target of a massive plot involving the deep state, radical progressives, and possibly even the ghost of Abraham Lincoln. It might not be the final act, but it's certainly dramatic. Trump has elevated conspiracy theories into a performance art. His platform is built on grievances, misinformation, and the idea that facts are flexible. He sees losing an election not as defeat, but as fraud. Impeachment is labeled a witch hunt. Indictments become proof of persecution. In his world, defeat is never his fault. Someone else is always to blame, and the system is always out to get him. His legal troubles are piling up faster than the number of unpaid workers he's left behind, with criminal charges, lawsuits, and probes coming from all directions. His behavior since leaving office shows he's incapable of accepting irrelevance, which might be the one thing he fears most. His courtroom appearances now outnumber his campaign events. But does that slow him down? Not even slightly. He uses his legal woes as fuel to play the victim and rile up his base. This is a president-elect who seemed disengaged, more interested in tweeting about Alec Baldwin's SNL skit hours after it aired than in national security briefings, of which he only attended a handful in his first month. Still, despite it all, he commands a disturbingly large portion of the population's attention. No matter how often he lies, stirs scandal, or trashes democratic norms, people remain fixated. It's like reality TV, only with real-world consequences. And then there's the legal chaos. Oh yes, the delicious, never-ending mess of lawsuits and indictments. At this point, the saga could have its own television series, Trump, Law and Disorder. Michael Moore wasn't wrong when he mocked how absurd it is that a man facing enough charges to fill a Cheesecake Factory menu still clings to the narrative that he's the victim of some massive covert operation. Of course, this comes from a legal system that let war criminals and financial fraudsters off the hook, only to suddenly decide the real threat is a man with a fake tan and an expired coupon. It makes you wonder. Let's talk about his legal record. Criminal accusations, civil trials, fraud cases. He's got them all. One can only imagine his legal team has a group chat labeled Code Red. Meanwhile, Trump insists that the judiciary is unfair, as though judges are pulling names out of a hat, and his just keeps coming up. But there are consequences to breaking laws, shortchanging contractors, and misusing political donations over the years. You eventually get caught. Even in Monopoly, there's a chance you'll go to jail. Then there's his obsession with winning. Trump constantly boasts about winning, but his definition of it is as unreliable as his claims about height. This is a man who's filed for bankruptcy 6 times, lost the popular vote twice, and somehow makes golf seem exhausting. He's like a backwards version of King Midas. Everything he touches turns to failure.